we're not responsible for our emotions. We know this now, and we can do the boring discussion of the research on that. We literally cannot control. And I grew up hearing that you need to control your emotions. You cannot control your emotions.
You can't control feeling emotions.
Right, but you can control the behavior.
Right, what you do with them or how you feed them.
The emotion goes somewhere, like it or not. It goes somewhere. And we'd love to think, oh, nope, it dissipated into the atmosphere. No, it didn't.
I just didn't even realize I was actually living in a lot of fear. I just didn't know it, which is so unhealthy. And so it's realizing that these emotions are not negative or positive. They're messengers. They're simply messengers.
I've experienced some loneliness, I would say, just with how social you are. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I've just at times felt lonely that I don't know if you want to spend time with me as much as maybe other people.
As Christians, it can be hard to share our feelings and emotions, and this problem is only exacerbated in dating and relationship. Should I share this? Should I not share this? Is this too much? Am I too much? Why do they shut down when I share this? Why am I shutting down when they're sharing with me? How do I listen and maybe not agree, but validate? That is the biggest challenge in Christian dating, I'd say, is healthily communicating your emotions and also receiving somebody else's. Fortunately, today we have an amazing guest couple, Glenn and Phyllis with Connection Codes. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, it's our just honor. We're so excited to be with you guys. I've heard about your ministry for so long through different people, and so it's kind of like surreal to be here and to be sitting with you guys. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you guys are the goats. We wanted to, this season, we're doing a relationship goals series, okay? And so we wanted to bring in experts. You guys really are experts in this topic of emotions. And we know a little bit about emotions, but we not nearly as much as you guys do. And I think this is something that thankfully in our journey of singleness, we started learning, but it really got exacerbated when we got into relationship and then of course in marriage. And so I'm really excited for today's episode because I think for the singles listening and for the people in relationship, I think we sometimes wait to learn how to use these skills until we're in a dire state, when we maybe get married and then we're like, wait, what is going on now? Why do I not understand my partner? Why is there so much resentment? Whatever. And so I think learning how to communicate emotions and express them and the importance of them now is vital. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know that you guys started Connection Codes out of years of disconnection in your marriage and even your sex life. And how did you go from that, though, to then creating this incredible tool that now so many people are using?
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, I have to reference back. You said expert. Bear in mind, expert, if you break it down, X means former and spurt means just like a quick burst. So we formally, I don't know.
I love that.
I don't know if you meant that as a compliment,
so
but
good.
I don't hear it that way. But I always say you can learn from anybody. Some people you learn what to do. Some people you learn what not to do. And we really nailed down the what not to do. So we spent 30 years just the shining example of don't do that because it was a disaster.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we also realized if we'd have had any kind of tools when we were dating, it would have made such a huge, huge difference. We got off track horribly. And we thought because we loved God and we had the foundation of God, his word, the church, like ministry, we thought we had, that's all it takes to have a successful marriage.
Yeah.
And we found out really, really quickly that that was not the case. And so it was almost like, I think for a while we were shell shocked and thinking, where is God? And has he abandoned us? And, what is happening that there's so much pain so quickly?
Yeah, because 24 hours before our wedding, we were excited about happily ever after, as is every
hopefully,
couple on their wedding day. I assume that every wedding I've ever been to. And 48 hours after our wedding, we were, as Phyllis said, shell-shocked. Like, what the heck? We figured we'd signed a 70-year contract because I was 20, she was 19. I assumed I would die when I was 90. I was hoping it'd be sooner at that point. But we were just like, what the heck happened? Because we're intelligent people. Like, we can tie our own shoes. We know how to do things. So we're like, how's this possible? Like literally 3 or 4 days ago, we were loving this, and now I can barely stand to be in the same room as her. We didn't have any vocabulary to communicate that, but we missed each other. And a lot of that was centered around sexuality. Our wedding night was a disaster. It was the greatest 11 seconds of my life, but for her, it was not that great. And it was very, very harmful. Thank you for laughing at our pain. But we just lost each other. And we did a lot of water skiing on our honeymoon because Phyllis figured out if we're on a boat with other people, none of that sex stuff is going to happen. And she didn't know how to say that to me. I didn't know how to say what was happening for me either. And so we just got more and more lost. And then that took us over 20 years to even really begin to recover from, to get some traction.
Well, so, okay, first question is, like, how common is that? Like what you just described, we kind of think we know this person spiritually. We feel really great about ourselves or walk with God. And then we go in and we just emotionally are like infants as far as our ability to communicate needs and feelings. And I would say, specifically in Christian dating, right, this is, like I said in the intro, this is a big problem we have because it's almost like this false sense of maturity, and we're completely underdeveloped and untrained on how to actually
we almost
our
think as Christians that feelings are bad. I think that's been something I heard a lot in the church of like, if you have that feeling, anxiety, like we just need to pray it away, versus being able to name it, not see it as just like, oh, this demonic thing that's happening, and be able to process it and know what to do when we are experiencing that. And I think, so there's many Christians out there who's like with negative emotions or harder emotions, they have a very hard time wanting to name it, feeling shame about if they have that emotion. So anyway, I'll throw that back to you guys.
Well, and just for the record, that's not a new development. That's been a teaching for literally many centuries, if not millennia or more. We have writings from way, way back, Augustine, St. Jerome, Martin Luther. So this is not a new development, in the last 10 years or since social media or anything like that. So we have a very, very long history, a deep heritage of not, certainly not embracing emotion, but of not even accepting emotion. That if someone's conveying an emotion, we think that they're whatever, immature, unspiritual, ungodly, undisciplined. And Phyllis, for many, many years, said, that she didn't do emotion because I had enough for both of us, which was sort of true, but I didn't know what to do with my emotions. I looked emotional. I wasn't the life of the party. I was the party. I was bouncing off the wall all the time. So it's like, oh, Glenn's really emotional, but I didn't know what to do with it. So it wasn't healthy on my side. And then Phyllis thought she didn't even have emotions. She had simply shut down early in life, long before she met me. I exacerbated it, but I didn't start it. And so between the two of us, we were just completely clueless.
Back to just that early dating, it's like we followed all the rules that church Christianity had given us. And so I think we went into our honeymoon going, okay, this will be nirvana. Like this is like the greatest, this is kind of God's wedding gift to us. And then, because we followed all the rules, we were like, you don't have to know anything. I mean, and it was just, that's where I felt so abandoned. And no one had talked to me ahead of time to teach me anything, like no family member, no friends, no one at church. And so it was that immediate, like, what just happened? And this is what we saved. This is what the big deal was. And so I think that, and sadly, now we've been married 43 years. We work with young couples whose stories are the same as ours. And so it's like, wow, in 43 years, things have not improved. The church is still not talking about it. People don't have the resources. They don't know how to date well.
Yeah.
And go into marriage really strong. And it's like you wait until you're married, and then you start feeling so much pain about so many things. And then you're like, oh my word, we're going to need to get help. And then, of course, there's even a kind of a stigma around that, like you're broken. And instead of realizing, oh my word, of course, we do better in community. Of course, all of us need partnership, and we need to be coaching. It's like there's that's the shift I think that needs to happen, to realize I would be better if I had coaches in my life that were helping me in whatever it is.
I think men are worse off in this than women in this culture. I think this culture is really stunted in this across the board. But all of our sayings, we say boys don't cry. We don't really say girls don't cry. We wish they wouldn't, or at least go in a closet by yourself, Don't
Yeah,
tell
we
us about
almost
it.
were like coddling them. We're like, oh,
But you're kind of allowed to. But boys don't cry.
Or you're a crybaby.
The John Wayne, the Clint Eastwood, the James Bond. I love all those movies, but they're movies. They're completely dysfunctional human beings. They're not really human beings. They're just a role they're playing. So, we say, man up. Well, there's not a woman up. What does woman up mean? we don't say that. It's man up. Grow a pair, boy.
Yeah.
We don't say grow a pair of ovaries, girl.
Yeah.
Which would be the equivalent. So we don't even address females that same way. They're kind of, again, we don't like their emotions, but we just kind of like, well, she's female. And actually, she's just human. But men are specifically taught, and to add on to it, make it worse, our military, our first responders are trained even worse. They're triply cursed. They're in this culture, they're men, and they're trained to not be human. So, and that's one of my favorite things to do. I have a son-in-law who's a first responder, is to work with them because they're doomed. I mean, the legal divorce rate, which divorce is really about the relationship, not just the paperwork, but the divorce rate is just astronomical with military, first responders, men in particular, because they have no idea how to be their authentic
So how
self.
does a guy even know, though, that they're dysfunctional emotionally? Like, how do we even...
Play the odds, just assume it's you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Is there somebody somewhere who lives in Nebraska? I don't know, probably. I guess I haven't met many.
Well, it's interesting, though, in our relationship, I was the one who genuinely said, I don't do emotion. And I am a very task-oriented person, and I was very successful.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't need emotion, so I don't do emotion. And I didn't understand that actually there's a part of your brain that houses emotion. And I didn't learn that until I was 50. And it's like, oh my word. So I spent a lifetime like saying over and over, not just to him, but to people, like, I don't do emotion. And I was definitely looked at as, oh yes, she's the one we want on our committee. She's the one, we want her to be the president this year. Like she's the one, because I could get a lot done. And it was always kind of that, well, it's because she doesn't do emotion. Emotion is what messes up women even. Like, oh, you can't get anything done because you're so emotional. Instead of realizing we have, first of all, a lot of this we've just defined incorrectly. We don't even know true definitions. And then most of us don't understand how the body functions and that we all have emotion.
Yeah.
And as believers, it's like, oh, God created me and God created me with a brain that houses emotion. So what in the world is God? What is this about? And that is, of course, what radically changed our marriage and our lives. When, for me, especially when Glenn was doing all this research and he was bringing it home. And for me, I don't have to know all the facts as far as I'm not the research girl. But when you tell me this is how God created me, I'm like, oh my word. So for 50 years, I've believed a lie and I've been living very unhealthy because your body, and there's a lot of work now that's out there. Brene Brown talks about emotion. The body keeps the score. It talks a lot about what happens when we don't process our emotions. And so by about 50, my body said, I'm enough. I've stored all of this your whole life. It's time for it to come out, or your body's going to just break down, which is what it was doing. And that's when he was bringing home this stuff. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, and it's been, for the past decade of my life, it's been quite the journey to go from I don't do emotion to actually trying to tune into my body, tune into what's happening, and then actually express it. Like if I feel hurt with Glenn, for me to be able to say, I feel hurt, it's almost mind blowing. Because prior to that, I would have been like, don't have time for that. Just get over it, girl. Move on. Get that next thing done. So I was always pushing myself, and it was like, nothing affects me, which is not true. It affects your body. I was just told myself, done, or give it to Jesus, or just pray about it. Get in the car or go for a walk and pray about it. So I was never telling anyone what was really happening for me. And so it's just been this crazy, but I've had to undo so much because I started to realize, wow, I was taught at a really young age to be quiet and silent and productive. And that's where the task-oriented stuff just kicked in. Like, that's where my worth comes from, is all the tasks that I do.
Yeah, and I would just throw in you never telling anyone, including yourself.
Right.
So for decades, she didn't even let herself, which sounds weird, but she didn't even let herself know that something was happening for her. So when she would, whatever it was, but if she would feel hurt with me, she just, whatever, suppressed, denied, ignored, stepped around, whatever. Well, the emotion goes somewhere, like it or not. It goes somewhere. And we'd love to think, oh, nope, it dissipated into the atmosphere. No, it didn't. And there's a lot of research now, and this whole field, it's a kind of a new field as far as just the neuroscience of what happens with the body. But emotions get stored in our cells. We don't understand that. It's sketchy research. It's hard to pinpoint exactly. But we now know, there's about 40 years of research, so it's a mounting body of evidence that says that the emotions get stuck in our cells. Again, what exactly does that mean? We don't know. But we do know that it has an effect on our cells. It makes them less permeable to water. And so it begins breaking down our immune system. So it does have an effect, whether we like it or not.
So one of the pillars of connection codes is the core emotion wheel. And I'd love to talk about that. I'd love for our listeners to know, like, what is this? What are the main core emotions? Because I would say before I started doing some of this work, I was definitely more like you, Glenn. I was like, I tell everything. I speak all the emotions, but being able to process them, move through them, know what to do with the emotion I had was a whole different story. JJ, I would say, is more like you, Phyllis, and was just like, I'm cool as a cucumber. Everything's fine. Chill. Like, things bother me, but then I just move past it, kind of. And so I was definitely in that place of, I have emotions. I'm feeling a lot of things, everything I'm feeling. But then what do I do with it? So I think having these 8 core emotions and really being able to name them has been super helpful.
What's up, fam? Today is October 10th, otherwise known as World Mental Health Day. And this year we're saying thank you to our therapists. I seriously don't know what I would do without you. BetterHelp therapists, especially, you guys have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their journeys. That's so many millions of stories, pain points, and behind everyone is a therapist who showed up to work that day. So we salute you, we thank you, we appreciate you. And what better way to show appreciation to your therapist than by giving them more work. Okay, so we got you guys, betterhelp.com/HOD for 10% off. That's for your first month of therapy. We love you guys. Therapy is amazing, especially if you're single. Don't wait for the external pain point of relationship to make you go to therapy. Go on your own will. I promise you, it's the best investment in yourself that you could ever make. BetterHelp has over 30,000 therapists that will match you to their perfect match. I wish they could do it for your love life too, but it's just your therapist. So that's betterhelp.com/HOD for 10% off. Love you guys. So do you think the wheel is a great place for people who are dating and in relationship to start?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Dating couples all over the world.
Should we do like a live wheel exercise now just to...
That'd be amazing.
As an example. And because I just feel like it would be so helpful for a lot of people wherever they're on that spectrum of oversharing, undersharing, suppressed emotion, vomiting emotion. There's so many people in relationship right now who don't really even have one tool that they can use.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys guide us through what it would look like for someone, say they've been dating for 6 months.
Yeah, and we'll model that. But I do want to emphasize, we're not talking about vomiting for 15 minutes. I'm talking about me being able to say to her, I felt hurt by what you said.
Right.
earlier.
No,
that's concise. She can hear that.
The undershare kind of suppress, like that's their worst nightmare, right? Okay, this is just another tool for me to just get 20 minutes of emotional just dumping, right?
Vomit all over me.
This is in both of your best interests.
And actually, if you'll put it in the show notes, for your listeners, we have a special code that they can put in. They'll get the wheel for free, but they'll also get a video to show them how to do it and the kind of what we call the rules of the wheel. So we'll give you that and you'll have it in your show notes. Because we want people to not just hear this. We want them to have something to actually download and see and be able to really make a difference.
just so you know, for most of our marriage, my specialty was 39 paragraphs. I would explain something to her in 39 paragraphs. She quit listening 38 and a half paragraphs. The research actually bears this out, that when there's an elevated emotion, people listen for 3 sentences. That's all you get. So Phyllis quit listening 38 and a half paragraphs ago.
So good.
And I'm just talking and talking and talking. I'm like, babe, let me give you 2 more examples and 3 more analogies.
Right.
And then it'll make sense to you.
That's so funny.
She's not even listening.
Not even there anymore.
me.
She's departed.
Yeah. And it's not a Phyllis issue. It's a human issue because she's still stuck on the first 2 sentences that I said.
Right.
And so she's not even tuned in anymore.
She's
and
flooded,
that's part of what this does is get somebody like me. For somebody like Phyllis, it helps her to pulls her in to herself, her own experience. For somebody like me, it helps me to narrow it down. Don't give the girl 39 paragraphs, dude. She can't handle that. Tell her in 2 to 3 sentences.
So good.
She can handle that.
Because I'm, maybe the more traditional couple that you see, it's the woman does get 40 paragraphs, and as a man, you're supposed to listen to her, support her, and then when it gets to your turn, it's like, you don't even get a turn, right? By the end of that, right? Okay, so Kate and I, we're gonna do the live exercise.
Cool.
We've never done this, by the way. We've done other variations of some sort, but first time doing the wheel. So
Amazing.
Walk us through it, or you tell us.
Well, the rules of the wheel: don't hold the wheel because the goal is to look at each other if you can. If you hold it, you'll look at it. 2 minutes each. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. A couple, 3 sentences max. And then the other's responsibility is to simply ooh. So you have to explain the ooh.
Yeah, the ooh is just an audible sound. So you're not just sitting there in total silence staring at the other person. You're actually, it's kind of like if you were on the phone with someone, you make an audible response so they don't think that the line was cut.
Yes.
And so you're just giving some sort of acknowledgement that you're hearing. Yeah.
I noticed him oohing you while you were talking earlier in the,
I'm a good ooher.
podcast. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 is 2 minutes, 2, don't hold the wheel, 3.
And look at each other.
Yeah, and 3 is
If you can.
active listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Okay, who's going to run the timer?
We're not going
We
to do
won't
that.
time you.
Okay.
And then also just to say, like when you go through each one, whatever comes to you first.
Yeah.
Does not, sometimes you're going, oh, I can't remember the last time I felt anger. Then go back to you can think of something a year ago or a big time in your life.
Yeah.
So it's best to start with something most present.
Yeah.
Like right today, if possible. But if can't, then go back to the last time or the big time.
And am I going to go through each one
Yes.
and name it? Like whether I'm feeling it now or the last time I felt it? Okay.
Oh, so you go through all 8?
Yeah, you go through all 8.
Wow, I love this.
Because
Okay.
we're just exercising the emotional muscle.
Okay, great. All right. I'm feeling right now and today in general, I think I'm feeling some sadness. I'm feeling some guilt.
About what? Finish the sentence.
I'm feeling.
I feel sad about.
I'm feeling sad about some of the conversations we've had lately around kids and number of kids. That's been really weighing on me lately. Feel some guilt just about the way I've kind of led our family, just as a leader, and just the way I've maybe lived passively or just day to day and not really with a vision or a culture that I really believe in. And I think there's been some talk the talk, but I really want to step up and walk the walk in some of these ways. I felt some anger, towards myself, towards Eleanor today, some frustration and anger. Felt some shame about that as well, about how I showed up and how I was a dad and how I was impatient with her. I have felt joy today. I felt a lot of joy this morning and a lot of joy the past week, I'd say, because I'm so grateful for the life that God's given me, and specifically in the community that God's given me. But again, there's some more guilt with that too, because I know I prioritize my friends and community over you and my family sometimes. And I have felt lonely for sure in our marriage at different times in the past, week or two. There has been a lot going on, and I have felt like sometimes I might be the one who cares more about the marriage at different times. I know that's like a convenient narrative, but that I do feel lonely sometimes. And I fear I feel some fear. Fear is one of the harder ones for me. I think that's the one I've definitely suppressed more than any of the other emotions. I have felt fear recently. I'd say probably more about just like the future and what it looks like for our family and size. I would love to have a big family. And I know that's kind of been in something that we're working through and talking about. Yeah. And then sadness, for sure. A lot of sadness. At moments today, probably the past, last time I felt really sad was probably a couple days ago, just with some of those heavier conversations we've had. Just about the family, the direction we're going, the number. And then, so I think that's all 8.
Wow. Dude,
Thank you for
amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
How did that go, guys?
Amazing.
Good?
Yeah.
I want to go to lunch with it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Hear
for
more.
sharing.
Yeah, of
babe.
course.
This is really good.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. It's amazing, like breathing, how, like it's riding a bike that you just haven't ridden, in a while. And it's pretty easy. Like once you start talking about it, it just all comes out. And that's as a suppressor, so yeah. Thank you for listening.
Good. Now I have to go. Okay. Okay, I've been feeling a lot of anger lately. It's a emotion I'm very familiar with, and you know that. I think I have some anger towards you, and some anger towards just the season I'm in currently. I'm not able to do as much. I just feel angry. And I would say connected to that, I feel shame with how I've showed up. I haven't been the kindest to you. And I know my prayer time every day I'm asking and confessing to the Lord, and I'm not often doing that to you and really confessing how I'm being unkind. And I feel shame about that because I want you to hear my apology and hear my confession. I feel guilt for in this current season not showing up quite the way I would like to as mom. I feel limited with my emotional capacity, and I've been leaning on you a lot. And that gives me a lot of, quote, mom guilt, I feel lately. I have fear. Fear is one I'm very familiar with as well. That leads me to lots of reactions. Fear that I guess there's a lot of fear of letting everyone down and being a failure. I've communicated that to you, and I felt lately that I failed in many areas, and I just fear doing that to other people outside of just you. I'm doing it in my marriage, and I'm doing it with my daughter a bit. Am I also going to be doing it to other people? And then fear of what are people going to think about me if they knew I was this way. Lonely. I've experienced some loneliness, I would say, just with how social you are. And I think it's a beautiful thing. We've had the most full, rich life here since moving to Franklin. And I've just at times felt lonely that I don't know if you want to spend time with me as much as maybe other people. I've had moments of sadness around sadness is harder for me. I don't know why. Yeah, I'd have to maybe come back to that. I feel sadness in ways, but I feel like it leads me to these other emotions. So that's one I'd like to discover more about, how I relate to sadness.
Right.
Yeah. Hurt. Yes, I have felt hurt lately. Sometimes by things that you don't directly do. And I think that I can sometimes take things personally when maybe I shouldn't. And then joy. I have felt some joy lately, which has been harder with where I've been at. So I'm grateful that I've been able to experience some joy because I really need that in this season. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for listening.
You did great.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Well, so with sad, can you think back, even if it's really far, to a big time in your life when you felt sad? Try to experience that in your body. Like pull that out.
Yeah. Yes, last year we had 2 miscarriages, and I would say that was a season with a lot of sadness and disappointment. So definitely can relate to feeling it in that season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where in your body do you feel that?
I feel like I feel it here, which is weird. Like and like it's like choking me almost a little bit.
Yeah.
And probably in my stomach as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear that. Wow.
You know, sometimes our emotions are like us. I think, again, even as Christians, sometimes we feel like there should be a time, like it's a time limit. Like, okay, you were sad last year, of course, but that should be over. And that is not how the body works. That's not how emotions work. It's like if you're still sad, if you're just in a season of sad, then sad is very much a part of every day.
Yeah.
And the more to say it, like it's like you're trying to get it out. And it's interesting, even it may be that it's really just stuck. Like it's asking to be spoken, you know, and to be like, speak that sad every day. And I think sometimes and it's interesting, you know, you said like fear of judgment, fear of what other people will think, fear of, you know, disappointing people. And it's like, oh, but if I'm always saying I'm sad, people aren't going to want to be around me. People are going to think, girl, you know, where's God in this, you know?
Yes,
and there's
why
a lot,
are you so down?
a judgment instead of realizing, oh, I'm not choosing to be sad. I'm just sad.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not asking for this emotion. I'm just sad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to express it. And there's a lot of judgment about emotions. And if you take that out and go, no, emotion just happens to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm feeling just a lot of, I would say I feel a lot of lonely, and lonely for me is not about people. Lonely for me is, I don't feel supported in a lot of my responsibilities.
Yes.
And so it's really healthy for me to express those every day.
Yeah.
And Glenn is so great about oohing me. He doesn't have to start trying to help me with the things I'm really good with. Like I have a lot of really good skills, but I'm the only one that does.
Yeah.
And so I keep up with a whole lot of things, and that just is lonely.
Yeah.
Because you know, the more we travel, I'm the one. Glenn doesn't normally know where we're going or when we're getting there or how we're getting there or what we're doing when we get there. I'm the one who keeps up with all of those things. And, but it's so great that I can just tell him, I'm just feeling really lonely. And the fourth phrase that is such an important phrase that we talk about is, what do you need?
Yeah.
For him to get to that need, because often I go, I just needed to tell you. Or sometimes I'm like, we were in New York City and we needed to hail a taxi. And I realized I had never in my life hailed a taxi.
Wow,
and I was just, fear gripped me and I was like frozen. And he could sense that I was off, right? Like, babe, what's happening? I said, I'm feeling a lot of fear about getting a taxi. He goes, oh, I'll do it. Not that he's an expert. He's he's a farm boy. But for him, it's like, I've seen it in the movies. And it was almost like
And I did a heck of a job.
He did. He stepped out.
Whistled,
He stepped out in the street like you see in the movie. And he put his hand up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like, he asked my need. And I was like, I need you just to hail the cab. Where normally I take care of all the things.
Yes.
Including, you know, when the Uber driver's coming. But this was one of those where we were told, don't get an Uber, jump in a taxi and get there. And it was like, oh, wait a minute. I've never done a taxi. So it's like to be aware of what's happening for you and to be able to share it with someone is so, so powerful.
I agree. So you guys narrowed this down, and we'll put the graphic up for the watchers on YouTube. I think the first time I remember seeing this, It was really cool because I saw the needs and then how they show up when you don't feed them. But I think more frustrating for me was, and I'm sure you guys get this, it's like 7 quote negative emotions and 1 happy one. What's up with that?
Well, first of all, they're not positive or negative. They're just neutral. They're just happening. And to underscore that, and this again was some of my research, it's like, wait a minute, joy originates in the pleasure center of the brain, very dopamine oriented. Dopamine gets us to do horrible things. Cocaine addiction comes from dopamine. The reuptake in the brain is blocked.
Right.
So you have a euphoric sensation. So we should all be cocaine addicts. I mean, that's obvious.
Right. So joy is not actually positive or negative.
Exactly.
It's neutral.
Yeah.
And depending on what you do with it or feed it.
Yes.
Because you can, go experience joy. I mean, that is crack cocaine, right? But it doesn't mean.
And many things. I mean, all of us have overeaten before because we felt so much joy about ice cream.
Right.
And then we're like, oh my gosh, I ate a half a gallon of ice cream by myself. I think, I feel horrible. Well, that was joy. So are we celebrating the joy? Actually, that was unprocessed joy that pushed you to do a behavior that was to your own detriment.
Right.
And all of us have bought something that later we're like, I can't believe I bought that.
So what you do with it is
you just spoke to me right
positive
there.
or negative. But so walk me through. So you narrow it down to these 8, and would these shared negatively end in disconnection, and these shared vulnerably end up in connection? Walk me through the
Well, back to the 7 negative. For example, if Phyllis goes out of town, I get hit with loneliness.
Yeah.
Well, lonely just tells me who matters to me. Like if you go out of town, I don't care. I'm not going to miss you.
I thought we hit it off a little bit.
Well, not yet,
We
dude.
both drive a white Prius, and
If you go out of town, I don't even know. You're not in my life. If she goes out of town, I feel lonely. So is the lonely bad? Well, it may not feel good in the moment, but no, that's important. If she goes out of town for 5 days and I'm like, I didn't feel any loneliness. Babe, I didn't miss you at all. If you were gone for 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, I don't care. So wait, the lonely is valuable. The lonely is actually helping me know who matters to me. And if I don't feel lonely when she's gone, something's funky, because that means she means so little to me that I don't even miss her.
You know, the big thing too with all of this is it starts with the individual.
Yeah.
And at first I don't think we realized how much until more recently that this starts with you, with me as an individual. And to realize, okay, I have 5 regions in my brain, and these are broken into 8 because of brain scanning. Like you kind of see the pain region fires differently on a brain scan for sad, lonely, and hurt. And so it's like
they're all 3 in the pain region.
Yeah, they're all 3 in the pain region, but they fire so differently. And to tune into myself and to do this exercise, we call it the core emotion wheel. It starts with me becoming aware. And it's interesting because when I first Glenn started this work with me, I was very resistant. I was like, first of all, I was taught to choose joy. So it's like, you just choose joy, come on, just choose joy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then like when he said, well, let's talk about fear. And I'd say, I have no fear and I'm not afraid of anything is what I said. And then as I realized I was very difficult, but I'm like, okay, God gave me a fear region of my brain. Okay. And if I'm hooked up to a brain scan, it actually fires throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, just like when we pulled up to the studio, it doesn't look like what I would call a normal studio, right? It's in a house. So my fear region says this could be somebody's home. You may have just gotten the wrong address, or there's maybe instead of this Patrick, whatever this is called, maybe instead of road, there's an avenue and we should be on avenue, but we're on road. So my fear region is kind of kicking in. And it's just like, okay, process that fear, go to the door, being prepared that maybe you're going to knock and old elderly woman's going to answer the door and you're going to be like, I'm so sorry. I think we're at the wrong house, right? It's my fear region just tuning me in to what's happening. So then in that moment, what's so great is what's connecting is when I can share that with Glenn, where in the old days, I would have just been irritated. Like I would have snapped at him. Are you sure you got the address right? This doesn't look right.
That's just your fear.
Right.
Unmet fear.
Yeah. It's a fear I'm not tuning into and I'm not expressing. And so I just began to realize, wow. And for me, I had to dig deeper. Like with fear, I realized, I have fear of rejection. And at the time I was running my company and we were growing by leaps and bounds, and I was hiring and training faster than anyone should be hiring and training. And I was waking up every day with fear of what was going to be on my phone once I looked at it, fear of who was calling out, fear of jobs that weren't going to get done, fear of clients that weren't happy. Like I just didn't even realize I was actually living in a lot of fear. I just didn't know it, which is so unhealthy. And so it's realizing that these emotions are not negative or positive. They're messengers. They're simply messengers.
So we have these 8 emotions: hurt, joy, anger, shame, guilt, fear, lonely, sad. I want to just camp on 1 second for shame, because the first time I saw this, I was like, why is shame on here? I don't want to, like, is there any, I think shame usually has a very negative connotation of all of these. I feel like, oh, you experience shame. Okay, we really need to break that off of you, there is still a gift of recognizing shame, but I feel like it's very rare to be like, to just in the moment say, I'm feeling shame right now. I think usually it's like, we're like, oh, I feel guilty is the word maybe somebody might use. So can you help me and the listeners understand maybe the gift of experiencing shame and the difference between shame and guilt?
Yeah. Well, shame is my favorite core emotion.
Is it?
I love shame.
Yeah.
Shame is visionary. Shame makes me, it's an inspiration. So we have the 5 regions are anger, fear, pain, pleasure, and disgust. And disgust, we divide, pain, hurt, sad, and lonely look different on a brain scan. You can tell the difference between them. Disgust, we divide into guilt and shame. They look the same on the brain scan. Thus far, we haven't been able to differentiate them, but they look different with body language, facial expression, and behavior. For example, typically when people feel shame, they look down. Typically with guilt, they look up and to the left. So every human's unique, but that's just typically what happens. So each core emotion is just giving me a message and asking me a question. So shame is saying to me, oh, dude, I don't know that you are the best possible version of yourself. Can you do it better? Well, some things I can't. I'm 63. I can't run as fast as I did when I was 18. So if I lose that race, I'm embarrassed, and shame says, oh man, could you run faster? Could you have won that race? And I'm like, nope, I don't think I can, but I can process that in 10 seconds. I don't keep track, so I don't know, but I probably get hit with shame just as much today as I did 30 years ago. Yeah. Now I process it in 10 seconds. It has no stranglehold on me. I don't suffocate with it. 30 years ago, I was drowning in it.
Yes.
If you had asked me 30 years ago, hey, Glenn, how often do you feel shame? I'd have been like, never, because does a fish know that it's wet? I don't think they do. I think they're just like, what's wet? I'm in it. Do you feel the water? Feel what water? No. So I was just drowning in shame. Now I get hit with shame. I process it in 10 seconds or 20 seconds, whatever. And so it has no talons in me. And I get the message from it. I'm like, oh, shoot. And again, the beauty of each core emotion, if I behave poorly with her and I'm insensitive to her, unkind, well, I'm being a lesser version of her husband. Good. I hope I feel shame. And what's amazing is a guilt and shame-free person, you know what that's called?
A liar?
Narcissist?
It's narcissist or a sociopath.
Okay, yes.
And in our churches, we're trying to create more sociopaths. Not on purpose, but that's what we're doing. We're saying, no, you're guilt and shame-free.
It's funny. Well, because guilt, I feel like, is a little bit more tolerable. And that's like the one of I just remember seeing this. I'm like, the one of these that feels most familiar and tolerated in the church is guilt. Because guilt, your guilt of your sin, right? You've done a bad thing. You're a sinner and you need a savior. You need that forgiveness. And I feel like that's the only one that would be, you're allowed to say, or it's like okay to say. And then you get forgiveness, whether from another person or from God. But in dating and then relationship, say you have a couple, I guess it kind of feels like like you said, you're in the car. If you're not able to name the emotion, it still comes out, right? In just this unhealthy sense. And would you say in your research, that's kind of what you stumbled upon, is when our emotions come out in an unhealthy way, really it's just through actions and no words.
Right. And
that's what causes a disconnection. Is that what you say is like the fundamental?
Yeah, all human behavior is pushed by emotion. If you trace it back, you go, oh, he did that because this is what was happening in his brain. So we're not responsible for our emotions. We know this now, and we can do the boring discussion of the research on that. We literally cannot control. And I grew up hearing that you need to control your emotions. You cannot control your emotions.
You can't control feeling emotions.
Right. But you can control the behavior.
Right. What you do with them or how you feed them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of these light bulbs explodes and you jump up and stab me in the neck with a pen. I'm like, dude, you're not allowed to do that. That was your behavior. But if you jump, because you feel fear, okay, yeah, you're not trying to feel fear, you just felt fear. Will you feel more fear than me? I don't know. You're closer to the light bulb, so maybe you will. I have no idea. I don't really even care. I didn't even know that with Phyllis. I mean, she mentioned it, but I wasn't even paying attention when we pulled up. I didn't feel any fear because I just didn't really care. I mean, if we're at the wrong house and it's a little old lady, doesn't matter to me. So, and we all experience things uniquely. I experience fear about things that Phyllis can't feel fear about. I mean, it's just out of her paradigm. And she feels fear about things that I don't feel fear about. So we all, experience things uniquely.
Okay. I was just going to say, this is so powerful. I love this. For a person who is like, okay, these emotions, this is foreign to me. I've never really named, especially for you, Phyllis, and where JJ was, I think the harnessing it, like we've learned how to do, is another important step. But for the people that are like, I don't really connect to feeling emotion, I feel like you have the person a lot of times you have what we have on these two couches, right? It's like somebody who feels a lot of emotions and somebody who maybe feels like they don't feel emotion or that it doesn't exist for them. And so they kind of are like, my partner is the high maintenance one.
Wow.
You typically often see it in the male and female. So the male is the one who's less connected to emotions. Again, it's not prescriptive. It's not always that way. It's just often what we see. So for the person who's like very disconnected, maybe they're dating somebody who's like, this person has a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. I really don't know what to do with this. I'm just kind of chill. How do they start naming their emotions when it's become so foreign to them to even do so?
Yeah. Well, I do want to emphasize, if you went to the Amazon jungle and found a tribe that didn't know, Western civilization and showed them one of these and said, you know what this is? They'd go, a rock? I mean, I assume they wouldn't speak English, but whatever. They would have no idea what this is. They have no way of knowing what this is because they've never seen it before. They've never experienced it before. So for most of us, now we experienced it when we were kids. One thing about the connection codes is it's based on the human condition. When JJ was 12 months old, I remember this about you. You were much shorter back then. You were an awesome connection coder. You experienced something, you conveyed it authentically, vulnerably, instantly. Even at 3 a.m., this was very annoying about you. 3 o'clock in the morning, you woke up and you felt fear. You never looked at your watch and said, I bet mom and dad are sleepy. I'm going to let them sleep until 7, and then I'll tell them at 7 what was happening for me at 3. You never did that. Somewhere along the way, you
Our
learned
daughter's 1, so all of this is very relevant.
There we go. And ask her. When you get home.
Yes. Why did you cry at 3 a.m. and not wait till 7
Can we just schedule a meeting at 9 and you can review your experience? She doesn't do that. She conveys. So we're hardwired. Again, I'm faith-based. I think God designed us this way. We're hardwired to function this way. We got lost along the way. So we're really trying to retrain people. We're not training them. We're retraining them to be their authentic, vulnerable self.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I always think about you going back to the question, like, what does somebody do? And I think that I always think of it in more of a physical way. Like we all have muscles, we all have veins, we all have, kind of the same organs. And you go, okay, well, what if I've never taken care of my body? And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, the doctor said, this is serious. You better get serious about this or you're going to die. Then all of a sudden we pay attention, right? We learn, okay, what does my body need? And we can radically change something when we're motivated to change it. And we all of a sudden realize, oh, my body is telling me, do not put gluten in me anymore. And I hate it, but I'm going to have to do that or I'm going to die. Yeah. And then you don't even know what gluten is. And then you find out and you start reading labels and you start talking to people who know about gluten. And it's the same in a way when you think about, oh, you mean my brain houses emotion and I don't know how to access that. Yeah. So it's there. And it's not that some people got it and some don't. It's not that. It's the language. It's like realizing, oh, I have not been tuning in. I've not tapped in. I'm missing out. It's a command center of the brain. It's telling me so many messages that I don't know what to do with, and I don't even know how to hear the messages. Right. So it's a beginning, it's like a journey. And I think there's a lot out there on emotion. The one thing I love about what we've created, and thankfully it was due to me in a lot of ways, I wanted it to be simple and quick. I'm like, give it to me simple and quick. Yeah. I'm not going to read
150 emotions.
I'm not. And I'm not going to read thick books or any books,
let me
actually.
tell on her, because I would bring home a research project of like 190 pages. I'm like, babe, this is so fascinating. You got to read this. And again, she's running her company at the time. She's like, I'm not reading that. I'm like, okay, well, at least read the 15-page abstract. It's just so fascinating. And the conclusion. And she's like, and she would say to me, I have 2 minutes. I give you 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, shoot. I don't know how to cover 100, and I was constantly bringing home books. I'm like, baby, you should read this book. She's like, I'm not reading anything. Because she was busy with our kids, with life, with her company. And so that forced me to go, okay, this is a high-powered, dynamic person. How do I reach her? How do I make this digestible for her? Right. She's powerful, but she's not going to sit down and read a 300-page book or a 150-page research project. So how could I narrow this down to 2 minutes? And that actually came into play. I don't claim to understand how God's Spirit works, but I sometimes wonder if that was a thing. Because she said 2 minutes to me so many times. She'd be like, I got 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes. And the core emotion wheel is designed to take 2 minutes. And the research actually bore out. I don't remember. But anyway, I think it bore out. That 2 minutes is the magical number that seems to work.
For what?
We ran control groups where we told people it would take 2 minutes per person.
To do the wheel.
Right, to do the wheel. We did it in partnered pairs because I was working with marriages at the time. And so we did a group of 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and I think 10 minutes and 20 minutes. The 20-minute group, forget them. They're never going to do it. The 5-minute group was the second worst. If you told people 5 minutes, because I think people hear 5 minutes and they think that's half an hour. Yeah, hey, you can do this in 5 minutes. And, Kate's like, yeah, right. That'll take half an hour. I'm not doing that. So the 4-minute group was the runaway winner. They were so much more likely, because our goal is to get people to do this every day. It's a 2-minute exercise. When we connection coders, so we brush our teeth every day. We do the core emotion wheel every day because we're exercising the emotional muscle that has atrophied so much. So my rear deltoid muscle as a therapist is not used very much. And so when I go to the gym and do the rear deltoid machine, like I put a paper clip on the thing. Because that muscle is atrophied so much.
Curls,
I never use it. Yeah. So for most of us, especially men, I think worse than women, our emotional muscle has atrophied so much that we don't even recognize it.
My last question for you guys, because I feel like there's so much more people can glean by going to your resources and hearing actually learning how to apply this more in their life. But if a couple did the wheel just as we did, and then they hear things, because we shared some harder things with one another about each other, I think that's a hard moment sometimes for somebody to hear, that they feel hurt by X that maybe the other person across from them did, or they feel sad because of something that maybe happened. What's in the moment, the oohing, obviously, but after the response, I think it's easy for somebody maybe to go on the defense or explain or, go into those things. What do you recommend as the first step after they share their feeling with the other person?
That's a great question. I love that. And I loved the way you both thanked each other. Like, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
You want to see the authentic self. You want the other to see the authentic self, right? And I think in relationships, that whole defensiveness, we tried it for 30 years of marriage. It doesn't work.
We're a quick study.
Yeah, 30 years. 30 years of taking the other into the courtroom. I can prove before judge and jury that I'm right and you're wrong.
Yes, exactly.
And it destroys your relationship. It just destroys it. And so in sharing the wheel, yes, both of you shared some really beautiful but authentic, but deep stuff. And it's like for the other just to go, thank you for letting me in. Like, thank you for sharing that. And, Glenn's response to JJ was, I want to go to coffee with you. Like, I want to know more. That was his first.
Yeah.
That is just like I'm drawn to you guys now. I'm like, yes, please, let's go to dinner. Like, how many hours do we have this afternoon?
Yeah.
Like,
let's hang out all day.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's that human nature. It's the humanness that pulls us together when we share so authentically.
Yes.
And when you're sharing it with someone who is safe, which we talked about that earlier, JJ, just off camera, but that whole, like in a dating situation, if you're doing this on a first date, which is brilliant because then you see and hear so much, and you wouldn't have the depth like about each other, not the relationship. You may hear some really deep things like that is in the other person's life, like dealing stuff with home or with work or with friendships, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the beauty of, wow, you let me in. Like, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
And the ultimate is wanting to get to the need.
Yes.
Like, what do you need?
Mm.
And to be able to even ask that. Now, the wheel, again, 4 minutes and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
There's not afterwards wait a minute, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. And what are you talking about? That is against the rules
now you're
of
in
the
the
wheel.
court of law.
Right.
Yes.
We're not taking this into a courtroom ever.
Right.
It's just a thank you for sharing. And yes, sometimes you hear some really big things, but the point is Glenn has the right to share his hurt. Him sharing his hurt doesn't mean he's expecting me to change who I am or to change what I've done.
Yeah.
It's like, I just wanted to share. Now, the way I often think is, oh, okay, so you felt hurt when I said thank you for unloading the dishwasher. All right, what do you need in that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, could you say it differently? Like, I just feel like, I just feel pain in that. Like you finally did something, and it's like, oh, sure. What, tell me, like, help me know how to. For me, it's just a simple thank you.
Right.
But what do you need from me?
But I do like what you said about, and we'll wrap with this, in relationships and dating, would you say it's a really good litmus test to just check, like, where is this person at emotionally? Yep. I do like the idea, especially for guys who are maybe like, I like that example of the Amazon jungle and the tri-man with an iPhone. Well,
They're like, I've never even talked about any of these. Maybe sad or it's like the three emotions: happy, mad, glad, mad, sad. Maybe like those.
But what
three.
I do like though is, the irony of the analogy is like a iPhone is intuitive. So actually they could use it pretty quickly because it's so intuitive. And I really would say like the wheel and that exercise, the beauty of it is even for the most underdeveloped, maybe never practice guy or girl, it's such a great starting place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But again, they did practice when they were 6 months old, 12 months old, 18 months old.
It's like riding that
got
bike.
out of habit. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Riding that bike that at some point as a kid, toddler, you got off. So thank you guys again so much.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I really hope it blesses and just gives couples one tool to just start, and go from there. So that really is the gift of relationship at the end of that, which is so exciting. And so I'm so passionate about that. So is Kate, and I can obviously tell you guys are so passionate about, at that altar and what you wish for.
Yeah.
That actually could be true. That reality actually is feasible, that you really do love each other harmoniously, in unity. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kate and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring the show to you each week. I want to shout out Lena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.